The day after her grandmother's funeral, Emily received a phone call from her mother. "Emily, I have something to give you," her mother said. "It's something that has been in the family for generations, and it's time for you to have it now." Emily was surprised. She knew her grandmother had left her some money, but she had no idea about this family heirloom. "What is it?" she asked. "It's a mirror," her mother said. "An antique mirror that has been in our family for over 100 years. Your great-great-grandmother brought it with her from Europe when she immigrated to the United States." Emily was intrigued. She had always been interested in antiques, and she loved the idea of having something that had been in her family for so long. "Where is it?" she asked. "It's in the attic," her mother said. "It's in the attic," her mother said. "I'll send someone over to help you get it down." Emily hung up the phone and waited for the person her mother had promised to arrive. It took a few hours, but finally, a man showed up at her door. He introduced himself as a family friend and said he had been sent to help her retrieve the mirror. Together, they went up to the attic, and there it was, covered in a dusty old sheet. Emily's heart raced as she lifted the sheet and revealed the mirror. It was a beautiful piece with a carved wooden frame and intricate designs etched into the glass. "It's beautiful," she said, running her fingers over the frame. "Yes, it is," the man said. "But be careful with it. There's a reason it's been hidden away for so long." Emily looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, that mirror is haunted," he said. Emily laughed nervously. "Haunted? Come on, you don't really believe in ghosts, do you?" The man didn't smile. "I'm serious, Emily. That mirror has a dark history. It's caused a lot of pain and suffering in our family over the years. I don't want you to be the next victim." Emily rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. I'm sure it's just a silly superstition." The man shook his head. "Believe what you want, Emily. But be careful." With that, he left, and Emily was alone with the mirror. Emily spent the rest of the day cleaning the mirror and admiring its beauty. She didn't believe in ghosts or hauntings, and she certainly didn't believe that a mirror could be cursed. It was just an old piece of furniture, nothing more. That night she went to bed early, exhausted from the day's events. But as she lay in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She tossed and turned, trying to ignore the feeling, but it only grew stronger. Finally, she got up and went to the mirror. She looked at her reflection, but there was something off about it. Her eyes seemed to be darker, and there was a strange aura around her. She shook her head, thinking it was just her imagination, but then she heard a whisper. First, she couldn't make out what it was saying, but then it grew louder. "Help me," it said. "Please help me." Emily was terrified. She looked around the room, but there was no one there. She realized the whispering was coming from the mirror. She backed away, but the whispering only grew louder. "Help me," it said. "Please help me," it said. "Please help me." Emily didn't know what to do. She was too scared to stay in the room, but she didn't want to leave the mirror alone. She decided to sleep in the guest room that night, far away from the haunted mirror. The next day, Emily tried to forget about the whispering she had heard the night before. She went about her day, running errands and catching up on work. But as the day wore on, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That evening, as she was getting ready for bed, she looked at the mirror again. This time, she saw something that made her scream. In the reflection, she saw a figure standing behind her. It was a woman, but her face was twisted in agony, and her eyes were empty sockets. Emily turned around, but there was no one there. She looked back at the mirror, and the woman was still there, reaching out to her. Emily stumbled back, trying to get away from the mirror, but the woman followed her, always just behind her in the reflection. Emily realized the mirror was showing her images of the past, of the people who had died because of it. She saw her great-great-grandmother, the one who had brought the mirror over from Europe, and she saw the pain and suffering that had followed in its wake. She saw her own grandmother, who had always been secretive about the mirror. But now she understood why. The images in the mirror were becoming more vivid and disturbing with each passing moment. Emily could feel the fear and anguish of the people in the reflections, and she knew that she had to do something to put an end to it. Emily began to research the history of the mirror, and what she found was chilling. The mirror had been cursed by a witch in Europe who had been executed for her dark magic. The curse was meant to bring pain and suffering to anyone who possessed the mirror, and it had been passed down through Emily's family for generations. Emily knew she had to break the curse, but she didn't know how. She consulted with experts in the paranormal and tried various spells and rituals, but nothing seemed to work. The whispering and the images in the mirror continued, and Emily could feel the curse taking hold of her. She became increasingly paranoid and anxious, and she started to see things that weren't there. One night, she saw the woman in the mirror again, and this time she was holding a baby. Emily realized that the woman was her great-great-grandmother, and the baby was her grandmother. The woman was begging for forgiveness, and Emily knew that she had to find a way to break the curse and put an end to the torment. Emily turned to an old family friend who was a practicing witch for help. Together they performed a ritual to break the curse on the mirror. It was a complicated and dangerous process, but Emily was willing to do whatever it took to end the curse. As they performed the ritual, Emily saw the woman in the mirror again, but this time she was smiling. Emily felt a sense of peace wash over her, and she knew that the curse had been broken. She looked at the mirror, and it was no longer haunted. The images were gone, and the whispering had stopped. Emily felt a weight lifted off her shoulders, and she knew that she had finally put an end to the curse that had plagued her family for generations. In the days and weeks that followed, Emily felt like a new person. She no longer felt paranoid or anxious, and she could finally sleep at night without fear of the haunted mirror. She decided to keep the mirror, but she had it sealed in a special box and placed it in a storage unit. She knew that the curse had been broken, but she didn't want to take any chances. Emily felt like she had finally put an end to the dark history of her family, and she was grateful for the help of her family friend who had helped her break the curse. She knew that the haunted mirror would always be a part of her family's history, but she was determined to make sure that it didn't continue to cause pain and suffering for generations to come. If you like my story, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video for more and similar stories.